Okay, this is up there. This is in my top 5 episodes. I'm gonna just start the episode out like this. This is up there in my top 5. This was easily one of the best episodes in this series. Again, this ending's been very good. We had I still am not a big fan of how they handled Don Black and introducing him. But overall that episode was pretty good. But like this literally end here, these last couple episodes just feel like they're gonna like really get good, really end this series on a high note. Which overall I thought it's been pretty good overall. Um, they wrapped up a lot. There is a lot, and now there's even more questions. Like what's gonna happen with Natsumi in the future here, in these last couple episodes. I do want to start. Let's start with that whole kind of Natsumi bestial thing. So, again, we're gonna kind of skip over the stuff that happens in the city. We'll come back to that. So this is not gonna be boom 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 order of events. So they don't start in the city, or yeah, they start in the city. They don't start in the village. But when we go to them in the village, they're we see Don Black is telling the Sixth Ranger like, hey, like you're not okay, man. Like what you see is not real. And so he's like, hey, like this isn't real, or like you're not making any sense. Like I don't know, like why are you saying that? And so they go back to the playground where they were at in the last episode, and he's like, look at it, she's right here, this is Ruby. And obviously Don Black's like, okay, I can't see anything, but I'm gonna just be formal and just introduce myself. And then he kind of pulls her away and says, hey, like, do you know anything about the bestial world? Do you know how to get there? Like, I need some information from you right now. And he's like, hey, like, I don't know anything about that. So Don Black runs back to the police office where that guy, basically the guy's house. And starts looking at the manga, which again, we've been told for the past 5 episodes, like the manga is the key. So I don't know why they can't just look at the rest of the manga and go, this is what's gonna happen, let's try to figure out how to beat these guys faster. Obviously, again, it cuts the series short, but like they could literally be reading the manga and knowing what's gonna happen next. Now obviously they might have to decipher some stuff, but so he's looking at that and trying to figure out why there's a full moon in a lot of the panels. Why is the full moon always in the village? And so he's figuring out that we had a little scene kind of before then when they're talking in the playground with Toro, who is like, hey, like I need one of you guys to copy me right now and go back to Earth. So who's ever gonna do that, step on up. And so he gets copied by a penguin bestial. He gets copied by, goes back to the village, beats up the Sixth Ranger and Don Black, who again, Don Black is trying to figure out, like how do I get to the forest? And so kind of sees the bestial Don Red, but he can't really do anything because he gets beat up, and then the bestial Red goes. The bestial Red goes back to the city and says, hey, it's time for deliveries. So we again, skipping over what happens in the city, we go to Don Red. We focus on the bestial Red, who is starting to deliver packages. Bestial Natsumi pops up, slaps him across the face, and Don Red gains control of the bestial. So not only like how they have the rest of these people that are they're just copied and the bestial just lives in their world. Don Red is somehow able to take control. So this man from the bestial forest is able to control his own bestial now. And so Natsumi bestial's like, hey, like you know what you have to do now, right? You remember. And so he's like, okay, yep, thank you, I'm gonna head back. So we see Natsumi gets jumps away, goes to fight off more bestials, while our bestial Red goes back to the village. And while he was gone, they talked to again the police officer, the Six Rangers, orphan dad, and It sounds so weird. Basically, his dad. We'll just call him his dad. It sounds so weird when I say it the other way. Kind of telling him like, hey, like, what they were saying is right. Like, you can't, like, you were the only one here in the village with me. There's no one here. That I made up these people. I was gonna turn you into the next gatekeeper here, to protect the bestials. And so, Six Rangers, obviously can't handle that. That's a lot of information to process. So he kind of goes off on his own thing. I'll touch on that here real quick. He kind of goes on his own adventure through the city, I guess, and meets up with his, the imaginary figures of all his friends. And he turns into the tiger, the white tiger, turns his back, and then all of a sudden he kind of like senses or feels that they're disappearing. So, the white tiger kind of, lets him go back to, himself, turns around, he watches everyone kind of disappear. And that's it for his, like, that comes towards the end of the episode. And he's, upset, he's crying at the end, because he knows, like, he was alone the whole time, and he never realized that. And so now, again, he's going to eventually get back to the city. We do not see him in the final fight of this episode. He is not there for the final battle in this episode. So, again, it's going to set him up to be a return back in the city to kind of save them, or save the other 5 and the Cerebrians, essentially. I don't know if that's going to be next week. I don't know if that's going to be the following week. We'll see. So, again, he goes on his own thing. Meanwhile, the Bestial Red takes Don Black through a portal in a swimming pool. That's, I guess that's like the only way in, I guess, the way it's kind of described. But basically, essentially, if the moon can reflect off of a surface. So again, maybe you can put like a mirror on the ground or something. I don't know. So they don't explain it. So they jump through, get to the Bestial world. And we see Toro is alive and awake. Well, I guess he's they're all alive in the forest, but he's awake. This man's like, good job, Bestial. Like, you did what I wanted you to do. He de-transforms, de-copies, uncopies, whatever you want to say, Toro. And then Toro spits out the penguin that he had in his mouth, and the Bestial runs away. He's kind of, terrified of the power that Toro has. So meanwhile, he does that. Don Black goes and finds Natsumi, pulls her out of the tree, and tries to wake her up, tries to scream at her, but it doesn't work. She's out till the end of the very end of this episode. She is knocked out for. So then all of a sudden, Sonai comes in, and he's like, Toro's like, why are you in the forest here? Like, what's going on? And so, Sonai's like, hey, like, we'll talk later, we'll figure this out later, I just need to do something here. And so Toro's like, okay, well, let's just get in the fight, let's just start fighting off these bestials. And so Sonai kind of gets into, farther away from everything, meets up with the cop bestial, who is like, hey, like, you're here to help, you're a Cerebrian, and you're here to help the humans? What? And so he kind of has this like internal crisis of, hey, like, things are changing, times are changing, people are changing, Don Clan's changing, the Cerebrians are changing. And so he points out, he's like, the Ring of Power, not Ring of Power, Ring of Forgiveness, it's over there. If you want to go free the humans, you can go do that. Again, we'll talk about why he's doing that here in a minute. So Sonai does that, and meanwhile, Toro, man, this dude, I don't know how powerful this man is, but like, this man goes gold, shines on like the entire surrounding forest. Everything stops and turns to him. The Bestials, Don Black, Sonai again stops for a minute, and then he goes on to touch the Ring of Forgiveness, spins it, and frees the humans. But Toro's like, hey, like, things are changing. You are no longer going to be the bestials that are, committing crimes. You're going to be staying in the forest here. You're, no more affecting humans. And you basically, hey, like, I'm going to be the new gatekeeper. The new gatekeeper for you. And so, we're just gonna, we're doing things my way now. So, all the bestials are like, okay, fine, whatever. I'm scared of this power. They go running into the forest in all different directions. All of a sudden, every single human that was tied up drops down to the ground. Then they get teleported back to the to Earth. Then we go to Sonai again, who spun it. All of them kind of go back to Earth too, and then we get this image just before the final battle starts. We get this image of all those cubes that host people that are basically asleep, which we saw. Like, this was again like episode 14 or 15. Like, this was early on in the series. I think they were saving Toro. I think is who they were saving. All those get sucked into a portal. And then go back to Earth. We see a whole bunch of them pop up again where the final battle is. Dom Pink pops up there. He's like, hey, like, everyone get out of here. Like, we'll take care of this. And so again, we'll get to the final battle. But meanwhile, we'll go back to the main plot of the city here. So the episode starts out with all three kind of doing a pose, introducing themselves. The new I guess superior Cerebrians, and they start kind of attacking Cerebrians we've known all along throughout the series. And so, they kind of get beaten up, blasted around and whatnot. They're able to get out of there. And then they go back to the cafe and they're like, hey, like, we want to join up with the DonBrothers. Like, we have a common enemy now. We want to finish this off. We want to, just live our lives, essentially. And so, they're all kind of taking turns of like, hey, like, you should be generous, help us out with something, do something for us. Because again, you've killed a bunch of humans, you've fought us a bunch, and you've done a lot of bad things. And so then they, Sonai gets the idea of, hey, like, if I can go get my hands on the Ring of Forgiveness, I can, present that to Toro and say, hey, like, we just freed all the humans for you guys. Like, we brought everyone back. And so he makes that his mission, but again, he doesn't really say anything in the cafe, because then, freaking Kaito. Kaito's like, hey, you could also just pay us money. Dude! My generosity can be bought, If you want to just pay us money, we'll just call this even. We're good to go. And so Don's like, hey, like, we're not doing that, okay? We're not gonna do that. You don't have to pay us. But we cut away to them on top of a building, sitting back to back in a circle in a triangle, essentially. And they're all thinking like, hey, like, do we have any funds left? And they're like, no, I spent my stuff on manga, I spent my stuff on beauty, I spent my stuff on Odin. And so they're like, hey, okay, well, I guess we're gonna have to get the Ring of Forgiveness then. And so before they can do anything, the superior Cerebrians pop up and, start attacking them. And so Sonai's like, hey, like, split up. I'm going to create I'm going to create a diversion. So that he creates a diversion, is able to get away. Then he heads out to the forest. Meanwhile, Don Blue, Don Yellow are kind of thinking like, hey, like, where's Toro? What are we supposed to do here? And they were kind of out of this episode. Like, they were just side characters for the side characters, which is so weird. But, they didn't know what to do, and so, there's this line, and again, I don't know if this is exactly what was going to happen, but, when Don Blue and Don Yellow pop up at the final battle, it kind of made it seem like, Don Blue was kind of practicing haikus, which, the White Cerebrian wanted to be taught as a way of, hey, like, way of forgiveness, essentially. So it kind of, I'm assuming this of, like, he kind of went his own way. It's like, hey, I'm gonna start practicing haikus better and better and better. He had this thing where he kind of, his heart just like started jumping out of his chest, and he was about to do a haiku of love for her. He stopped himself in front of everyone. And so again, Don Yellow isn't really focused on this episode at all. So again, they go do their own thing. Sonai gets to the bestial forest. Meanwhile, the three superior Cerebrians are following the other two Cerebrians, our other two Cerebrians, get into a fight, and that's when Don Blue, Don Yellow pop up again at the final battle here, and they're like, okay, well, we can't just sit by, we gotta help them out. So they jump into a fight. And then, again, just like I said, it's, Sonai spun the Wheel of Forgiveness, whole bunch of humans pop up in front of, where they're battling, and, Don Pink's like, hey, get out of here. He jumps in the fight as well, and then we see Don Black, Don Red, and Sonai pop up last, and they essentially just use their might, come together, use all their power, and they don't really do anything. Like, we see a whole big combined attack from them, and the three superior Cerebrians are like, hey, like, that was kind of weak, man. And so, the other two, the side ones, again, the purple and the silver, that's what I'm going to coin the name, are like, hey, like, oh, let's go, baby, let's go. I'm excited now. I'm pumped for this. Let's get into a fight again. But they like, the red one in the middle is like, okay, hang on, let's just back up for now. We'll come back here. You guys are weak. We'll come back and we'll finish this next episode. So again, that's how the episode ends. Again, it's to preserve, so we have a final battle here. That's why they didn't, start fighting again. So then again, we end the episode with Natsumi waking up in the arms of Don Black. And, she's like, hey, I felt like I've been having this really long dream. And, he's like, hey, like, dream's over. We're good now. I love you. I only have eyes for you. I want you to only have eyes for me, and blah, blah, blah. So they kind of hug it out. And then we get this shot of Bistro Natsumi, she's floating down. Now, it's this, like, canal thing. I don't know what it's called, because I've never, like, we don't have one where I live. I've never seen one like this. I don't even know if there's many in America. But it's kind of like a canal. I don't know if people just, I don't even know what it's used for. Maybe it's like a diversion, so water isn't, constantly flowing in, one direction, so they kind of divert water through cities or something like that. Again, I don't know. But she's floating down this canal, essentially. And you can see, they show visible bruises, she's bleeding, her clothes are cut and whatnot, and she looks passed out, and I don't know if they're gonna say she's dead or not, because how they end this is, she gets sucked up into the bestial world. She's floating down the, again, canal, and the moon, basically becomes full, and she gets sucked in as she's floating down, so they're leaving it open as she might not be dead. And I talked about this. This was like 2 months ago or whatever. I talked about, like, hey, there's a possibility where we could have, Natsumi be with Don Black, and then Mio Bistro be with Don Pink. So I feel like we could still get that at the end. Going to be very interesting. But, again, they set it up as she might not be dead. So, wow, we're almost 19 minutes into this. This is crazy. There is a lot in here, and I might have missed something. So if I missed something, my bad. There was so much information, so much that happened, and there wasn't even, like, a lot of fights. Like, the fight basically took place at the end. Like, we had a little skirmish here and there in between, but it was a lot of plot. It's, hey, let's get the humans back to the world, from the bestial world, from the pocket dimension where they're all being held prisoner, and then, oh, baby, the trailer! So, we get the trailer. I think it's the second shot. I guess, let me touch on the first shot before I touch on the second shot. The first shot in the trailer is, Kaito is standing over a table. There's the two flags behind him, the Don Clan flag and then the Cerebrian flag. And they're sitting there, and we hear a voiceover of Toro say, hey, like, let's figure out if we should join up forces with them or not. Let's see if they're worthy of it. And then the second shot, we see Toro's dad sitting in the chair. So now we know, not only, again, was, all the humans in the pocket dimension freed, so was he. Now, we don't know, he knows a lot of, plot, essentially. Like, he's been the plot guy for the show. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen. We see him at the very end of the trailer, too, in the cafe again. So, I can't wait for reunion. I was thinking reaction reunion between Toro and his dad. You know, I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see, you know, how the Cerebrians are going to react to them. Because, again, this guy was a prisoner. Like, they put him there, and they're like, hey, you know, he's locked behind, you know, separate part of where, you know, the jail is, the pocket dimension is. Like, he's on his own. So, I wonder how they're going to react to him being freed. We do see the Cerebrians, the superior Cerebrians pop into the cafe, too. You know, there's a bunch of fighting in this, too. So, I'm excited to see how the dad is going to fit into all of this. You know, I'm, again, excited for the reunion between Toro and his dad. It's been, what is it, like 16 years, 17 years, or whatever it's been. So, maybe not even. Maybe it's only been like 10 to 12, something like that. I don't know. Because last he knew he was just a little kid. I think it was like 7 or 8. I forget. I don't know if I ever explained it. But he's a young kid last time he saw his dad. So, yeah, next week's going to be really insane. So for now, like the video, share the video around, don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here. We're 21 minutes in, and there's a lot of editing I have to do for this video. So I'm out of here. Peace.